I want you to just run a simulation in your head for a second. Fast forward, I don't know, 10, maybe 15 years, you've won.
And we're not talking got a nice promotion one.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
I mean, you are standing in a penthouse with floor-to-ceiling glass. The city skyline is literally reflecting off your coffee table. The bank account, it's at that number where you stopped checking it 3 years ago because the math just doesn't matter anymore.
That's what you'd call post-economic status. It's that level where money stops being a resource and starts being more like a scoreboard.
Exactly. Post-economic. You have the cars that make strangers literally stop on the sidewalk and take photos. You have the access. You have the respect. By every single metric that we are taught to care about, from like kindergarten all the way to grad school, you were at the absolute peak.
And usually this is where the moody credits would roll, right? Freeze frame, high five, fade to black. It's the happily ever after of modern capitalism.
But that is actually where our source material for today begins. We're doing a deep dive into this narrative case study called The Wealth of Enough. And it starts right there, in that penthouse.
Okay.
But instead of a celebration, the protagonist, this guy who has everything, wakes up with a feeling that the text describes as a tiredness that sleep cannot fix.
Oof. That phrase, it hit me hard when I first read it. Tiredness that sleep cannot fix. Because we've all been tired, right?
Of course.
You pull an all-nighter, you crunch for a deadline, but you sleep for 12 hours and you bounce back. That's physiological.
This is something different.
And
it sounds almost structural.
It is. It's existential fatigue. It's that realization that you've climbed the ladder, you finally got to the roof, and you're looking around thinking, wait a minute, I don't actually like this view.
Or worse.
Or worse, you realize the ladder was leaning against the wrong wall the entire time.
And that is the paradox we are unpacking today. It's this story about a chance encounter, a totally random collision between this millionaire who has everything and a poor man who seemingly has nothing but a wooden cart. And it completely flips the script on what we think ownership and success actually mean.
What I really appreciate about this source material is that it doesn't go for the easy answer. It's not a lecture about how money is evil or we should all give away our possessions and live in the woods.
Right, it's not that simple.
It's much more nuanced. It's an exploration of the difference between, say, accumulation, which is just gathering stuff, and alignment.
Alignment, I like that word. And the central question that's driving this whole story is one that I think hits everyone, no matter what your tax bracket is. It's the question the millionaire keeps hearing in his own head. Is this all there is?
And that is a dangerous question, because once you ask it, you can't really unask it. It's like a crack in a windshield. It's only going to get bigger.
So let's get into the profile of our protagonist here, the millionaire. Like we said, on paper, this guy's crushing it. His calendar is booked solid for months. He's important. People need him.
And he tells himself that the weight he feels, that tiredness, is just pressure. It's responsibility.
It's the cost of success.
Exactly. That's a very common rationalization. We often confuse stress with significance. The logic goes, if I'm stressed, it must mean I'm doing something important.
If I'm exhausted, it must mean I'm winning.
Precisely. So this millionaire is living in a state of constant external validation, but, internal depletion. He's running on fumes, but the car looks fantastic, so he just keeps driving.
But for this guy, the universe kind of intervenes. He's on a business, trip standard stuff, high stakes. And then a minor disaster strikes, a delayed flight, a missed connection.
The disruption of the routine. This is such a classic narrative catalyst. You have to strip away the control to see what's really underneath. When you're in your routine, you're just on autopilot. You don't have to think about who you are.
You just do what you do.
You just do what you do.
Totally. So he ends up stranded in this tiny town he's never even heard of.
Yeah.
And the source makes a point to describe this place very specifically. There is no skyline. There are no luxury hotels. And most importantly, there is no urgency. It says the town had just time.
And that is a terrifying environment for someone who is addicted to speed. When you remove the urgency, you remove the distraction, and suddenly you're just left with yourself.
Right. So he's wandering around this sleepy town, probably checking his phone every 3 seconds out of habit, and he ends up outside a modest little station. And there's a man there with a wooden cart selling tea.
And let's be clear, this isn't some fancy artisan tea shop.
No matcha lattes with oat milk here. This is primitive. Literally just hot water, tea leaves, and sugar. That's it. And the millionaire, mostly out of boredom because he has absolutely nothing else to do, he walks over, he asks, how much?
And the tea seller gives him an answer that would just, it would short-circuit most business brains.
It really would. He just says, whatever you feel is fair.
That is a fascinating power move, whether the tea seller knows it or not. By refusing to set a price, he shifts the whole thing from a commercial exchange to a moral or an emotional one,
It forces the millionaire to actually engage.
instead of just tapping a card and walking away.
And so the millionaire engages in the only way he knows how. He hands over a bill that the source says could buy the man tea leaves for weeks. He's probably thinking, okay, I've won this interaction. I'm the benevolent rich guy.
He's buying his way out of the social obligation. Throw money at it, keep moving. It's a defense mechanism. If I overpay, I don't have to have a real conversation with you.
But the tea seller doesn't react how you'd expect. He doesn't start gushing or anything. He just smiles. The text says warmly, not widely.
Okay.
And then he points to a small stool and says, sit.
And this is the moment. This is the threshold. He could have walked away. He's paid. He has the tea. But he sits. Why?
Because the environment has stripped him of all his usual excuses. He has nowhere else to be. So he sits on this little stool. And the tea seller starts making the tea. And he does it slowly.
Every movement is deliberate.
Yeah, no rush at all. Meanwhile, the millionaire's twitching. He checks his phone. No signal.
That detail is so crucial. No signal. He is completely severed from the network that validates his entire existence. He is forced into the present moment, which is probably the most uncomfortable place he's been in years.
It's his own personal purgatory. Just him, a wooden cart, and the silence. And then the conversation starts, and it's the tea seller who opens. He looks at the millionaire and says, "You look successful."
Acknowledging the costume, the
Yeah.
suit, the watch, all of it.
The millionaire nods, probably feeling a little ego boost. Finally, someone noticed. But then the tea seller just drops the hammer. He asks, "Are you happy?"
Such a simple question, but in this context, it's
I
devastating.
don't know. Totally. The millionaire laughs it off immediately. It's a reflex. He says, "Of course." But the source notes that his voice hesitates, just for a second. And the poor man, he notices. He catches that split-second delay.
You can't lie to someone who has nothing to gain from you. The millionaire is used to people who want something from him, so the dynamic is always performative. But this guy, he's just curious. He's looking past the suit.
And here is where the story takes a turn I really didn't see coming.
Yeah.
Up until now, the millionaire's probably feeling a little bit condescending, right?
Oh, for sure. He's thinking, okay, cute old man, simple life, ignorance is bliss. It's a defense. You're happy because you don't know what you're missing.
Exactly. But then the tea seller drops the actual bomb. And this is the plot twist that changes the whole dynamic. He looks the millionaire right in the eye and says, "I used to ask myself the same question, back when I had more money than you."
Boom. That is the moment the entire hierarchy just flips on its head.
The millionaire freezes. Because suddenly, this isn't a teacher-student moment where the rich guy is being benevolent. This is a peer. Or actually, no, this is a veteran.
And that's so crucial for you to understand. The tea seller isn't some monk who has lived in a cave since birth. He's a guy who played the game. He won the game, and then he realized the game was rigged.
Right. The source gives us the backstory. The tea seller used to have the shop, the status, the more, and he lost it. But his description of losing it is fascinating. He doesn't say, "I was ruined." He says, "My life became quieter."
Which is such a violent reframing of bankruptcy, isn't it? We're wired to think of loss as noise creditors, screaming, panic, chaos. But he says the loss stripped away the noise.
He says, "I didn't lose myself. I lost the noise." And the millionaire's listening now. I mean, really listening. Not that polite. I'm pretending to listen while thinking about my next meeting listening. He's actually hearing this.
And he's unsettled by the man's calm. There's no bitterness there. This guy is selling tea on the street after losing everything, but he's not angry about it.
Because he's no longer fighting reality. He's aligned with it. And this leads to the next question. The tea seller asks him, "How many hours do you work?"
The millionaire admits, too many.
And then the follow-up question, which I think is the centerpiece of this entire deep dive, "And when do you live?"
Oof. When do you live? It implies that working and living are, in the millionaire's current state, they're mutually exclusive activities. That he's trading his life for what exactly?
For accumulation. And this is where the tea seller lays out his whole philosophy. It's a philosophy of enough. He tells the millionaire, "I make enough tea, enough money, enough peace."
And we are so conditioned to believe that enough is a settling point. Like, oh, I only have enough. It sounds like failure to a high achiever.
Right.
But here, enough is a fortress. It's a position of strength. It means you are untouchable by that constant need for more.
And he hits him with this incredible paradox about desire. He says, "When I had more, I needed more. Now that I have less, I need less.
That's the hedonic treadmill in a nutshell. The psychological concept that as you accumulate more, your baseline for satisfaction just keeps rising. You get the Ferrari, and for a month it's amazing. Then it becomes just your car.
And you need the jet to feel that same rush.
You're just running to stay in place. The tea seller stepped off the treadmill. He broke the cycle.
The millionaire is sipping this warm tea, and the source says the truth burned. He realizes he's been postponing life, always preparing, never arriving.
That is a trap so many high performers fall into, the I'll be happy when syndrome. I'll be happy when I make partner, when I sell a company, when I hit 10 million. You are mortgaging your present for a future that, even when it arrives, doesn't feel the way you thought it would.
The tea seller just looks at him and says, "You own many things, but do you own your time?" And the answer, obviously, is no. The millionaire realizes he doesn't have the stillness this poor man has.
That distinction between owning things and owning time, that is the critical definition of wealth in this whole story. If you have the penthouse, but you don't have the autonomy to sit on a stool and drink tea without panicking, are you actually rich?
Or are you just a well-paid employee of your own life? That's a scary question to answer, honestly.
It is.
So, the tea is finished. The stillness has done its work. The millionaire stands up to leave. And his instinct, his default setting, is to pay more. He says, "I should be paying you more for this."
He's trying to balance the scales again. You gave me wisdom, so I'll give you currency. He wants to pay for the consulting session.
But the tea seller refuses. He just says, "You already did,"
Yeah.
referencing that first bill. The millionaire leaves, gets on the train back to the city, and the source describes the return journey. The city feels louder, sharper, more demanding.
His perception has shifted. The environment hasn't changed, but his relationship to it has. He's seeing the matrix now. He sees the strings.
Now, this is the part I really want to focus on, because usually Hollywood would ruin this ending. In the movie version, the guy walks into the boardroom, flips the table, screams, "I quit."
Sells the penthouse, moves to a yurt in Mongolia to herd yaks.
Exactly. Which is dramatic, sure, but it's also useless for 99% of us listening. Renunciation is just another kind of extreme reaction. It's not balance. It's just swinging the pendulum all the way to the other side.
That's a great point. And the source makes a very specific point here that I love. The millionaire goes back to the city. He keeps the job. He keeps the penthouse. But he changes the texture of how he lives in it.
It's about integration, not amputation. So let's look at the tactical changes he makes. They seem small, but I think they're actually massive. First one, mornings without meetings.
That sounds simple, but think about the corporate courage that takes. To tell your team, I am offline until 10 a.m. In a hyper-connected world, that is an act of rebellion.
It is. It's signaling that his cognitive energy is his own property, not the company's. He stopped starting his day on defense, reacting to emails, and started on offense. He reclaimed the morning.
And the second one, meals without phones. Again, sounds like basic manners, but what is that doing biologically? It's forcing the brain to stop multitasking. It's forcing you to actually taste your food.
To see the person across from you. He's practicing that stillness he learned on the wooden stool. He's artificially recreating the tea shop in the middle of the city. He's building little islands of enough in an ocean of more.
And evenings without urgency. That's the third one. Meaning when the day is done, it's done. He stopped carrying the psychological weight of the office into his living room.
He started owning his time, even if it was just an hour here or there. And the result? His success didn't dip. In fact, he probably got better at his job because he wasn't burnt out. But his definition of success completely changed.
From accumulation to alignment. He realized success isn't about the volume of what you have, but the intentionality of how you use your energy and your attention.
The source wraps up by saying that years later, when people asked this guy what changed his life, he didn't talk about a merger or a market shift. He talked about tea and a poor man who knew when he had enough.
It's a beautiful reminder that our biggest teachers rarely look like what we expect them to. We look for gurus on stages or best-selling authors, but sometimes the lesson comes from a guy with a wooden cart who just happens to be happier than you are.
So what does this all mean for us, for you listening right now? The source leaves us with 3 heavy hitters. 1, wealth without awareness is a cage.
If you don't know why you're building it, you're just building your own prison. You're building walls, not bridges.
2, happiness is protected, not bought.
That's a defensive strategy. You have to guard your peace. It's not something you can just purchase on Amazon Prime. You have to actively defend your time against the intrusion of the world.
And 3, more is not the same as better.
That's the hardest one to internalize in our culture. We are wired for more. Evolution wired us to hoard because winter was coming. But for most of us, winter isn't coming in the same way anymore. Better is often about subtraction, not addition, removing the noise to hear the signal.
It brings us back to that final thought the source offers. The tea seller didn't give the millionaire money. He gave him perspective. And that perspective was the one thing the millionaire couldn't buy.
And it connects back to that idea of cost. We usually think of cost in terms of dollars. How much is that car? How much is that vacation? But the real cost is personal.
Right. If you're chasing something right now, a promotion, a new house, whatever it is, you have to look at the real price tag. Not the one in the store window, but the one attached to your life.
What is the cost in hours? What is the cost in presence with your family? What is the cost in your ability to just sit still and drink a cup of tea without reaching for your pocket?
And when do you live? That question is definitely going to stick with
It's
us.
the only question that really matters in the end. Everything else is just logistics.
So here is our challenge to you. You don't have to get stranded in a small town to figure this out. Just take a look at your week, look at your calendar. Where are
Yeah.
you just accumulating? And where can you find a little bit of alignment?
Maybe it's just putting the phone away during dinner. Maybe it's staring out the window for 10 minutes without feeling guilty about it. Find your enough, because
Uh-huh.
once you find it, you stop running.
And when you stop running, you can actually see where you are. And you might realize that where you are is actually pretty good if you just let it be quiet for a second. That's it for this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.
Take care.